My name is Darren Perry and I'm the director and cameraman on The Journey, the film that you're watching, the short film, and it is January 2018.
I'm Richard Norton, you've just seen my name there. I play the traveller in The Journey, who reaches a very nasty end. This is our opening establishing shot where I've parked up. And this, again, was a totally collaborative affair, which we shot in a day, but it was surprising how long, for a short little film as this, I think of 15 minutes, it took to get certain shots. And Darren, you're doing the camera work here.
I am indeed doing the camera work, and it's hard to believe now that this is now 24 to 25 years ago.
Well, it's coming up to 25, it is, yes, it's
25 years ago.
That's a rather worrying thing to think about.
But the idea here being that this character is sort of looking around here. You're playing it in your old Vauxhall.
My Vauxhall Chevette GL, my first car. Yep, it's sadly no longer with us. It's in a big car scrapyard in the sky, or graveyard in the sky.
And there's lots of different angles here, and
this took about half an hour, I think, to get this right, just the shooting of the car. And we're off on the journey. I'm not sure what this road is called, but in a while we'll pass Felton Remand Centre on the right. Again, this is handheld here. You were sitting in the front with me. And you captured a sky well here. It's just this idyllic morning. I think it looks good. You go to whiteout here, Darren. Why was that?
Again, that's a post-production thing, but the whiteout suggesting something otherworldly, the journey of this character, something sort of dreamlike, rather than just a fade to black or a cross dissolve.
This is interesting. I remember you holding the camera outside the car, which was slightly dangerous. That was Ashley Road. This is now Eastwick Road, just down the corner from me. Our next shot coming up is the shot I suggested to you about The Evil Dead, which is where the camera follows the car. Those of you who've seen the film will know that. This is our version, much smaller scale. And you used a device here which you made yourself. It gives an almost fluid, steady cam feel to this shot, Darren.
Well, as you say, Richard, it was inspired by The Evil Dead, and you leave the door open here.
I do, yeah. I said I'm just going to get out and leave the door.
But yeah, it was inspired by The Evil Dead, and
look how smooth this is. Now this is handheld. Look now how smooth that is.
Well, thank you very much.
None of this shaky cam nonsense.
That is our Jaws shot.
Yeah.
Focus in and pull, move forward and pull the focus back.
I said about how strange that would be. Again,
to give that strange feel, and internal, very sort of bringing you into the character is very internalising his thoughts here in this graveyard.
This was done in 2 takes. The first time you said you're walking too fast. Could you do it slightly slower? So I did it slightly slower, and we got a take.
But yeah, going back to what you were saying about that inspired of The Evil Dead, you're right. It was very much taken from or inspired by The Evil Dead in its use of shots. But yeah, it's simply a plank of wood
under the camera.
The camera
with 2 pegs
pivoted
inside.
In the middle, in the centre, on a plank of wood with 2 handles either end. Press record on the camera, and then really no monitor either to go by, just going by intuition and hoping that you'll get the right shot.
This shot coming up here, when we've not long watched outtakes, and I saw this headstone and I just said, right, Darren, you've got to get that in frame. It's a morbid in-joke. And again, this was about 4 takes to get this right, because you're looking at through the camera, you're operating the camera, but you can't see where you're going at times, so you have to be careful. And then I decided to kneel down and touch the wording as though I'm finding a peace here, a unity maybe with the dead.
And again, this very exaggerated camera angle,
This has come out very well because you had the camera quite low down here.
Just to create this otherworldly feeling and mood with this character, for no particular reason why it was low angle.
Now again, I get in the car, I closed the door, and I paused here because I said I wanted to be kind of somehow contemplative and melancholy.
And again, that music.
Was that you, or was that something that we'd taken?
I did a lot of the music on the keyboard.
Okay, it's come out very well. Now this is Turner's Lane. Anyone that's interested, we cut from Turner's Lane. This is our transition shot, and we're now in Burwood Park, Onslow Road, which is just down the road actually from Turner's Lane. But it's seamless. The shot there is, it makes it seem as though I've driven off and I've gone down one road. I haven't. That's all the cleverness of being a filmmaker and an editor, and knowing how to keep a continuity and a fluidity to the framing and the shot. Now my car crawls around here, and we're at the further end of Onslow Road. Go to an interior, and we'll cut back to the exterior in a minute. And there's a tried and tested method, Darren, that you use here of the car pulling up and the camera on the headlight. I like this. I think again, handheld, and it doesn't look it.
I think it's quite a nice way to end a shot. It was probably, as you say, tried and tested, used a lot in many different films that I've seen over the years, as we all have, but just quite effective really, to focus in on the headlight of the car.
Now we're in Burwood Park, which is a private park, and it's just this beautiful tranquil day.
It's quite nice to just have a film that takes its time and has a few shots that play out without having to cut all the time. And again, this is all just, there happen to be 2 Canada geese there, so why not film them? And again, just creating a mood and an atmosphere.
Sadly, we didn't actually give them a credit on the film, but I'm sure they're not concerned. But no, I agree with you. I think just the look again. You got really close to the water here. I don't know if you were leaning across.
I think we're just on the edge of the water there, and
I want to point out here, there's no megaphone being used. There's no mobile phones, so you'd have to go off to one end of the lake.
Did we have mobile phones in '93? I don't think we did.
Well, we did, but they were the big chunky brick things. But again, if I didn't get it right, I'd have to walk all the way back. So it was very much also guerrilla filmmaking on the day. As I say, no storyboards, no script. And it was 110% a collaborative affair. It was a 3-man team really. And
well, this is, you were saying about no walkie-talkies, this is timed intuitively, so once I'd sort of started the camera recording from the point of the trees, I just timed it intuitively to when you were going to hit a point where we actually see you in the distance there.
The greens have come out well, by the way, haven't they? I think it looks very good.
It's a very peaceful place to film as well, isn't it, Richard? I mean, it's a very tranquil day that day, it seems. Yeah.
Now we cut to Something's Wrong. This shot of looking up at the trees and then that strange piece of music signifying that there is a presence here now. And
again, this is a very deliberate POV, point of view type shot, as though somebody is actually observing, as though someone else is there.
It's funny, you capture here that archway is an earlier entrance to the park, which I don't even think you can get through now, sadly, you know, all these years later. Now I've got a knife, and I've sat down on the log, and I proceed to cut at the log. It's really more of a compulsion thing, really. I'm compelled to do it.
And again, this sense of something perhaps creeping up behind him.
Maybe an evil. And again, this is your music, which I think captures that there's something wrong.
Definitely something not right.
The chords in this, actually, in the sound, it's almost as though it's matching, really, the more violent strokes I make on the bark. And now this is interesting. You had a knife with a tube on one side. The tube is hidden, obviously, from the angle you're shooting here. And our other collaborator, Martin Chambers, was hidden off camera with a tube and a device to spray the blood, to pump the blood, actually.
It's quite effective, really.
This took a long time to film. This was, you wanted the bark pulled away. And this was a fourth take. This was the fourth take, and we finally got it right. The blood on my face. We had 3 takes before, didn't we? And this.
A friend of yours said that they thought that the blood was actually coming out of the tree.
Well, they thought they had a bladder or something in the tree, and they'd seen it. Yes, she thought that there was something in the tree, but I said no. We used a simple, tried and tested method of a prop knife with the blood being pumped through on one side in the tube. Now we see the hand of Martin Chambers, who plays the master. He was the one operating the pump to spray the blood. And I don't know where that water's flowing from. It's probably not the best idea to be washing your hands in it, but it's really my revulsion of the blood and the way it's come from the trunk. Now, if we look carefully here, this is very subtle down. If we look at the figure standing here.
Yeah, it's quite effective, really.
And you cut away.
Just before
it's very careful, because when I watched this again recently, I thought, wait a minute, is there a figure there? Now we cut back and the figure's gone, so was there a figure or not? And this is the confrontation with the master, played by Martin Chambers. And this took so long to film. Sound effects put in here really add to it. And again, this was a prop knife with a half blade. I was actually doing the blood effect here, pumping the blood through, after you'd applied that wonderful makeup.
Yeah, that was Mortician's wax.
And this
grease paint.
This blood was cochineal, food dye. Was it coffee granules, ketchup?
I think it was gravy granules, which
again,
for some reason just gave that real good quality colour-wise to it.
It tasted vile. I can tell you right now, it tasted vile, having that in my mouth about 4 or 5 times.
Well done, Richard.
And you poured this over my face, and this was one take. When Martin looks to camera, that's the master.
And that's the journey.
And that is the journey, and the trees bled no more. My clothes there, I remember driving home covered in blood and getting the most funny looks from drivers. And my clothes were beyond help. They ended up in the bin.
The journey. Filmed that almost
24
years ago.
And I say born out of frustration, really, because of something you were trying to make in Osterley Park. And you ended up, we viewed the rushes and we had no sound. So the journey really was born out of that frustration. And shot in a day.